The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. This is the start of a very active day for your man, Louie T. I'm going to be live a ton today. We've got this show. We've got the skill game featuring the Thursday night game between the Bills and the Texans. We've got Commanders Nightly News a little bit later on in the evening. And then you've got the post-game overtime show for Bills Texans. So very busy day here on the channel. Let's get active. Want to start off by talking about the defensive side of the football. We've already done this for the offensive side, where we're taking a look at this roster, kind of talking about what players are going to be a part of this thing next year, which guys probably shouldn't be, and then what are some guys that you can look to potentially add. Obviously, there are going to be some different circumstances that dictate what the Commanders do, who they target in free agency, how many draft picks they have, where they're drafting in the draft. All of these things will determine what they're looking to do in free agency. But we'll talk about all those things this time on the defensive side of the football. So let's get straight to the proceedings this afternoon. And we start with the defensive line on the defensive side of the football. This is our active group of defensive linemen. It's very sad, I know. But this is what injuries have done to our defensive front. Jalen Holmes is a guy that has just been like a utility man for this team. He's been around when we needed him. They cut him. Then injuries hit. They brought him back. And I think it's time for us to pack him up. He's a good guy to have around when you have the proper amount of depth and quality players, and he's like a break in case of an emergency. I wouldn't mind having him on the practice squad. But as far as him actually being a member of the active roster, this can't continue next season. Jacob Martin is a guy that has been a revelation for us. He's everything that I thought he could be, hoped he could be, and then some. I was just hoping he could come in here and set a new career high as a rotational depth, pass rush specialist. We've gotten spoiled here over the last 2 years, right? We went from not having a pass rush specialist here in Washington for well over a decade to then having two that have played really well the last 2 seasons. Last year, Dante Fowler Jr. eclipsing double digits. And then this year, Jacob Martin setting a new career high already through the first 11 games of this season with 4.5 sacks. I was just looking for 4.5, 5 sacks from him in totality from this season. He's probably going to eclipse that, probably north of 6 sacks, maybe even make it to 7, which would double his previous career high. He's been spectacular. I would love to have Jacob Martin back next season. And again, the problem with this is you have him back next year. He's in the proper role, and then he doesn't do what he did this season. That's usually how it goes. But I'd love to see, right, to bring him back, to have him in that backup off the bench, pass rush specialist, juice off the bench type role. I'd love to see it. I'm good with Jacob Martin being back. We already know what time it is with Preston Smith. Pack his old ass all the way up. I don't even know why he's still here right now. This man is stealing money. He's been stealing money since he got here. He can't play anymore. Pack his old, decrepit ass all the way up. He's had a great career. He's made a lot of money. It's time for him to stop making money on our dime. They should move on from him ASAP. They're not going to, but they should pack his ass up. Sheldon Day, another one of these guys has been extremely, extremely resourceful. One of those guys that when you need him, he's always there, does his job. But again, I'm not in the season of, oh man, he's a really good guy and he's solid. I'm in the season of let's get young, let's get hungry, let's get more talent. Let's find guys like I'm treating him like they treated OZ last year. We can do better. So let's do better. Sheldon Smith, pack him up. And yes, I see somebody in the comment section, Lake Taylor Titan. That's Jalen Holmes. You damn right. Lake Taylor Titan for life. But he's got to go. Eddie Goldman, another one of these dudes that you brought in hoping he could just fill a role, as a backup defensive lineman that could carve out a niche for himself in a specific, avenue, which is just stop the run, bro. We bring you in the game. Don't let anybody run up the middle of the defense. That is exactly what Eddie Goldman has done. You could argue he's been our best run-stuffing defensive tackle this season. Him, Kinlaw, and Deron Payne have been spectacular inside. And Goldman's really anchored that second unit and that second wave of defensive tackles, or defensive linemen, rather, who have come in the game. I'd love to have Eddie Goldman back if he wants to play. He's the type of old beef that you like, the beef that's seasoned, that's been cooked for a while, but he knows what the hell to do. He has a job. He knows how to do it. All we can hope is that Eddie still wants to play football next year. This is a guy that's retired multiple times. We were nervous about him potentially, not wanting to play football again. We didn't know. If Eddie wants to play, he is more than welcome to come back here again next year because he knows his role and he plays it well. Kinlaw has been awesome this year. Got no complaints about the 3-year, $45 million deal he was signed to. Everybody said we overpaid. I feel like he's performed at the rate of the contract. Got no complaints. We move forward with him. Newton is a guy that we're very disappointed in right now. There's no other way to say it, but he's under contract, so there's nothing really here to talk about. And then Deron Payne, we had a very lengthy discussion about him being back next season. I'm all for Deron being back on this roster. It's got to make sense financially. I find it hard to believe that there is a scenario in which Deron Payne is back here next year, but I'm all for it. He's a homegrown product. He's one of the few guys that we've seen grow up from a small, tiny tot to a now full-blown adult, and I'd love to see him continue that journey here in Washington. But in all likelihood, this is where we get off the stop that is known as Deron Payne. But we'll see what happens. He's more than welcome back here if things work out from a financial standpoint, because he's played really well this season. So those are the active guys currently on this Commanders roster along the defensive line. As we now take a look at the rest of the guys on this roster currently. So now you have injured reserve and the practice squad. So we know Dorrance Armstrong is a big part of what we want to do moving forward. It sucks because he was on pace for not only a career year, he was on pace to potentially set a Commanders franchise record for sacks in a single season. He was going into that Dexter Manley type territory where very few have ventured. We never got to see where that was going to go. He got injured, a significant one at that, tore his ACL. Who knows when he's going to be back next year? The hope is he's back for the start of the season, but because it happened relatively early, there's a chance he could be ready for next year at the start, but you just don't know. And the other thing that sucks is Dorrance signed a 3-year deal. So he's going into the final year of his contract coming off of a major injury. You doubt you see the same Dorrance you saw, prior to the injury in the first year back from the injury. So it's a tough spot for DA, but it is what it is. He'll be here next year. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, similar situation. He's going to be going into I think he's going into year 3 of his rookie contract. So he's fine. He'll be here. That's all we know and need to know. Drake Jackson is very interesting. He's intriguing. I really feel like he's one of the guys down the stretch of this season that we need to find out about, because he could be the key to unlocking some decisions that you do or don't make in the offseason. Like, Drake Jackson isn't stopping you from drafting Bain or Arvell Reese if you're in that territory. But if you're not in that territory and you want to explore some free agents, which we'll talk about here in a bit, he may dictate what you do or don't do. Same thing with Dorrance Armstrong. You got to figure out how aggressive you want to be based off of DA coming back. And if Drake Jackson is legitimately a starting defensive end in this league, cool. If he's not, that's cool too, if he can still play. Because now, if you bring back Jacob Martin and you got Drake Jackson coming off the bench with him, you got your two backup defensive ends with Javonte John Baptiste in that mix. And now you just got to find yourself a starting caliber defensive end, right? So Drake Jackson, if he's a starter, that changes what you're looking for via the draft and free agency, etc. He's a big, big piece of this final 6 games of the season, I believe. And so be intrigued to see how he performs when we get him off of, IR. He's obviously had his 21-day window open. We've talked about that already. So I'm hoping that we get him back for the week 13 game against Denver and we get a nice 6-game sample size of Drake Jackson. And again, you can't just assume that he's going to jump out of the box fresh off of a big-time injury that got him cut from the team that spent the second-round pick on him. Just jump on the scene and just start killing shit. But you do need to see flashes of why he was a second-round pick in these 6 games, right? So we'll see what happens. Dietrich Wise, it sucks because he was a hired mercenary this year. This was a 1-year come in here and help us get over the top type of move at 31 years old, and he got hurt. And he was going to do exactly what he was brought in to do, which was stop the run, be physical, be an anchor on the edge, and collapse the pocket as a pass rusher. He was going to do all of that shit. And then he got hurt. So unfortunately for him, we got to pack him up. Coming off of that type of injury, at his age, for what we were going to ask him to do, I'm just not interested in doing this again with him. And again, he didn't do anything wrong other than get hurt. He had no control over that. But at this point, he'll be 32 next year. I'm good. I really, truly am. I'm good. Thank you for your service. I'll pass on re-ing up, though. Now you hit the practice squad. Ricky True Lies in my barber. Guy that we brought in here as an undrafted out of Central Florida. I actually would like to see him down the stretch of this season. I don't think we will. And we really didn't see him that much in the preseason, to be honest with you. So I'm not sure, if he's not replaceable. I'm not going to pack him up because I just don't know right now. But I'm pretty sure that if they don't feel confident about Ricky Barber, they'll find some other undrafted to take his place next year. I'm giving him the Norrell Pollard treatment from last year. Never really played last year for us, was on the practice squad the whole entire year, went to the following offseason with us, went to camp with us, and then got cut, and he's no longer here. He's the new Norrell Pollard until otherwise notified. Guy with some upside that's undersized, it's supposed to have some quickness. We'll see if it ever manifests anything. If not, he won't be here by the time next year starts. TJ Mag, our International Pathway Program player. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing to talk about here. There's no reason to cut him. There's no reason to move on from him. He's a project that you get to work with for free. Who doesn't like free? And then DeMarcus Walker, simply brought here as an emergency plan, essentially, break in case of an emergency. But this is no slight at him. Like, he's done nothing wrong, but he's not a part of the future here. You can pack him up after this thing is all said and done. This is a nasty injury-plagued season, and ultimately, we just need to pack him up once this is all done. There's several guys that are here simply because of the circumstances that we've faced this year. Robbie Chosen, et cetera, et cetera. DeMarcus Walker is one of those guys. You just pack those dudes up when this shit is done, right? And again, it's no slight at them. It's just the situation, right? So that's the defensive line. So when it's all said and done, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see what we got now. 6. Pack him up. Pack him up. Pack him up. All right. So you're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 defensive linemen that could be here. There's no guarantee that Jacob Martin is back, that Eddie Goldman is back, and that Deron Payne is back. There's no guarantee that those guys are back. But if all goes well, you're looking at about roughly 9 or 10 guys back on this roster next year from the defensive line, which is perfectly fine, right? And you're going to add to that mix. You're not satisfied with the 9 or 10 guys that are here. They give you a base and a foundation from which to work with, right? So as we move right along to the next position, and we'll come back around and talk about this position and the rest of these defensive positions and what the outlook is a little bit later on, but you move to the next position, and that's linebacker. And this is another one of those positions where you look at it and we don't really have anybody like waiting in the wings. This is everything you see here in front of you is what we have at linebacker. There is no practice squad guy, which is a problem, right? You should have young developmental players, but our young developmental players are all active. Ale Cajo, who can't stop knocking himself out. Kane Medrano, who can't get on the field defensively. And of course, Jordan McGee, who we're trying to develop while allowing veterans to still play in front of him. Anyway, all of our developmental guys are active. So the question becomes, can they find a way onto the field and show what they can actually do? Nick Bellore is a core special teamer through and through. And as long as Nick Bellore wants to play football, there is a roster spot with his name on it. There are very few who are better at what they do in this league than Nick Bellore. And even at the ripe old age of 36 years old, he still has another year on his contract. Next year, he is more than welcome to come back and fulfill that contract and retire a Commander. As long as he wants to play, there's a spot with his name on it here on this Commander's roster. Ale Cajo is a guy that I was impressed with. Most of you were as well in the preseason. I told you guys, I have no issues with Ale Cajo playing actual regular season snaps for me if it looks like what it looked like in the preseason. We haven't explored that, nor should we have, but I actually like Ale Cajo, and I would like to see more of Ale Cajo if at all possible. He's going to be back here. He's going to be back here next year, and he may get a chance next year. Who knows? We'll see. Frankie Louvu, down year for him, obviously coming off of an all-pro season last year. But he's still under contract. This is year 2 of a 3-year deal that we signed him to. And hopefully he finishes this season strong down the stretch. Jordan McGee is a guy that I'm very high on. And I think the upside on this kid is tremendous. And if given the opportunity to play more, I think there's more that he can tap into. But he's got to get more opportunities. He's been seeing the field more here of late, and you've been seeing the speed. And I think there's so many more things you can do with him. You can blitz him. You can drop him into coverage. There's so many more things that he can be that we really haven't tapped into because of the veterans that are in front of him. At some point, you got to turn this kid loose and really find out what he can do. And I would love to see it down the stretch of this season. I know it's not going to happen right out of the bye, but maybe the final 3 games of the season, you come to the realization that it's over and you turn the kid loose, man. I'd love to see it. He'll be here next year. So will Kane Medrano. We have no idea what he is. None. He could easily turn into another Dominique Hampton. Here today, gone tomorrow. Like, I doubt it. I don't see them cutting him, but it could happen. Right? It could truly happen. But he's under contract for another 3 seasons. They have no reason to rush that decision right now. And with the way they're about to tear this roster to shreds, I believe there's plenty of roster spots available. Unlike last year, where we had filled the roster up and then we added a ton of veterans to try to get us over the top. There wasn't enough roster spots Dominique Hampton needed to go. That's not the case this year. This kind of feels more like the first year when they got here. So Medrano's going to be fine. All right, and then it's a sad state of affairs that we have to do this, but we got to get to these veterans, man. And Vaughn was brought here for one purpose and one purpose alone, and that was to be a situational pass rusher. And it never happened because of the injuries to this defense. Early in the season, Vaughn was getting to the quarterback. He was the ultimate cleanup man. He was the janitor. Everybody else and all the chaos that was being created by Dorrance and Duran and Kinlaw and Jacob Martin, Von Miller was the recipient of the chaos that was being created and quarterbacks just falling into his lap. Now that everybody's hurt and, it's not the same, he's not getting to the quarterback because he's got to actually do it himself. There's no chaos being created around him, and he can't at this point of his career. He told us he could roll out of bed and get to the quarterback. I don't believe you. All right. Like the Anchorman gif that you've seen. I don't believe you. Pack him up. He's a Hall of Famer, though. He's a gold jacket guy. Pack him up, though. And this one hurts me bad. This one hurts me to my core. This one hurts because we'll always have 2024, bro. We'll always have 2024. And this is another gold jacketer right here. First ballot. But the time has come. The time has come. This was only supposed to be a 1-year experiment where he was brought in here to help instill culture, be a mentor to Jordan McGee, and then he was supposed to get his degree from Howard and get out of here, right? This wasn't supposed to be a 2-year thing, but last year happened. He was exceptional, and we couldn't help but bring him back. Unfortunately, this season has not gone well, and it's not because of him. He's doing Bobby Wagner type things. Is he a step slower this year than he was last year? Sure, but that's understandable. He's 35 years old. He's still a tackling machine. If you're within a 2-yard radius of Bobby Wagner, he's going to tackle you. Maybe 1 yard. But if you're in his 1-yard radius in any direction, you're going down. You have no shot of getting away. He's like a vortex. He just sucks you. He's like a magnet. Grabs you, right? But he's not chasing anybody down. He can't cover anybody in coverage. He's a liability when he's matched up one-on-one with these young athletic backs out of the backfield. Again, none of this is his fault. I hate to do this to him, but we got you're in the way and you're eating snaps of the younger players. It's been real, but we got to pack Bobby Wagner up. We got to pack Bobby up, man. Hate to do it, but it's got to be done. So when you look at this position, there's a lot of room for growth and opportunity to bring in another guy, right? There's nothing set in stone about this linebacker position. You got Kay Madrano, a 6th-round pick that we have no idea what he is. We got Jordan McGee, a former 5th-round pick from the 2024 draft class that we still want to see more from. You got Frankie Louvu, who's coming off of an all-pro season last year, but a down year this year. But we still think he can be a big-time player for us. 1 more year left on his deal after this season. Ale Cajo, a rookie that went undrafted that has shown flashes of being a very solid backup linebacker in this league. And if nothing else, he's a core special teamer when he isn't knocking himself out. And Nick Bellore, again, one of the best to do it in the league at the linebacker position in terms of special teams. And as long as Nick Bellore wants to play football, and he's already said that he's going to, play this year and next year, and then he's going to hang it up, well, he's free to come back and do it again next year. We got no reason not to bring him back. So you got 5 linebackers. As you can see, they kept 7 this year because this is what it was after the 53-man roster cut down. This is what it looked like. It hasn't changed all season. This is one of the few positions that's actually stayed relatively healthy. So there's space for 2 more linebackers next year, right? So let's move on to the next position, and that, of course, is the cornerback position. This is what it looks like currently. Really sad state of affairs. I know. I was so high on this position group going in. I called them the best in the conference and the third best in the league? Yikes. That was one of those very freezing cold takes from the beginning of the summer. But I'm an optimist. What can I do? Right? It's what I do. Whether right or wrong, I'm going to always err on the side of optimism. So let's take a look at this group here. So again, Antonio Hamilton has done absolutely nothing wrong, but at 32 years old, pack his ass up after this season. He's another one of these circumstance guys that's here strictly based off of our circumstances. Similar to Robbie Chosen, similar to DeMarcus, whatever his name is, defensive end, Walker, DeMarcus Walker, a couple of, a bunch of guys that you were brought in out of desperation. Antonio Hamilton Sr., he can go after this season. And he will. Noah Igbenogany, look, I got no issues with him. Clearly, they don't love him. But you can do a hell of a lot worse than him in a backup capacity. He returns kicks as he's shown this year. He can cover inside and outside. Again, he's breaking in case of an emergency. Like, you don't want to put him on the field. You don't. He doesn't look back for the football. He's a walking pass interference penalty, all of that stuff. But if you need a guy, the general is always there for you. Again, he's insurance. He's not Allstate. He's not State Farm. He's not Geico or Progressive. He's the general. If you're looking to save some money and time, the general is here. I don't have a problem with him coming back next year, is what I'm trying to tell you. As CB5, no problems. That's what he was this year, CB5. If they bring him back as CB5 again, you get no complaints out of me. Not a single one. I don't think they will, but I'm not packing him up, is what I'm telling you. Jonathan Jones, when you look at the age, you look at these final 6 games will determine whether or not we packing his ass up or not. I'll tell you this right now. He's not stopping you from doing anything that you need to do, is essentially what I'm going to tell you. You want to add 2 corners, Jonathan Jones isn't stopping you from doing that this offseason. You want to add another draft pick and free agent, Jonathan Jones isn't stopping you from doing that. He can come to camp with those 2 guys that you added, in addition to Mike Sainristil, Trey Amos, and let him duke it out and see what happens. And if he's not good enough, you cut him in. I'm not packing Jonathan Jones up right now. We may get to the end of the season. I mean, pack his ass up, man. But I'm not there right now. He played well over in Madrid. He's going to play the rest of the season. We got no choice but to put him on the field. And if he plays well, we know he can still run. He can play inside and outside. I'm not willing to pack the grizzled veteran up just yet. Again, he's in the same boat as Noah Igbenogany. If he's CB5, hell, if he's even CB4 next year, I'm not really tripping about it if he plays well down the stretch. So I'm not packing him up. And we know Mikey Sainristil isn't going anywhere. He's going to go into the 3rd year of a 4-year rookie contract next season. We'd like to see him play better than he did this season next year, but probably a guy you'll be watching down the stretch to see if he can't get his shit together, down the stretch with DQ calling the plays. And furthermore, if he's playing outside and he plays well, they may have to really come to the realization that he may be better outside than inside. So we'll see. Trey Amos obviously is a part of the future here in Washington. Sucks that he won't be able to finish out his rookie season on the field, but the 2nd round pick has proven his worth in just 10 games this season. And we look forward to getting him back fully healthy and being one of the anchors of the secondary moving forward. Got to pack up Marshawn Lattimore at this point, man. We tried the experiment. It failed. It's okay. You fail experiments sometimes, right? You have a hypothesis. You have, the constant, the control, the independent and dependent variable. You do all of these things, and then at the end, you come up with a conclusion. And the conclusion is he can't play at the level that he once did, and we lost this trade, right? It happens, and it'll happen again. And I don't regret us going after it, but I do regret the picks that were given up to acquire him. But at the end of the day, that was a part of the deal, right? That was a part of the process of trying to go for it, acquiring Marshawn Lattimore. But at this point, with this injury, at this stage of his career, pack his ass up. He's got one more year left on his deal. There's no guaranteed money. Technically, they could just hold on to him if they want. And with the no guarantees, but he's still owed a salary, and that allows you to move on from him. And the salary is significant enough that you're not going to hold on to him. You cut him. There's no, dead cap. You move on, and you cut your losses. That's what they do this year. Pack up Marshawn Lattimore. Then you get to the practice squad. Trey Hawkins, again, all of these dudes. I'm not packing any of them up. I could easily see how people would, man, Pat Carlin Vigors his ass up. Okay, look, he's an undrafted rookie that, looked like he wanted no parts of physical contact in the preseason last year. Maybe he just had to adjust to life in the NFL. We'll see. He's got some height, he's got what you're looking for at the cornerback position. I'm not packing him, Darius Rush, or Trey Hawkins up. They're all 25 years old. They're all young. They're all athletic. Let's just bring them to camp. It doesn't hurt to bring any of these practice squad guys to camp next year and see what they can provide the team. Either they can be on the practice squad again next year, they could show improvement and end up at the back end of the roster, or they will end up not here. Either way, why not find out, right? It doesn't cost you anything to invest and find out. So ultimately, all three of these guys are safe by my estimation. So when you look at this group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 potentially back next year. There's no guarantees on Noah Igbenogany and Jonathan Jones, or any of the practice squad guys for that matter. So this is a very fluid group here, because I can see a world in which Noah Igbenogany and Jonathan Jones are both out of here, right? I'm not packing them up, but I can see a way that neither one of them are back next year. They clearly, don't love Noah because he was inactive, a healthy scratch for multiple weeks this season. So I could see a scenario in which you're down to 5 guys, right? Mike Sainristil, Trey Amos, and the 3 practice squad guys, what I'm trying to effectively tell you is the cornerback position needs plenty of work. And I expect them to have a massive overhaul at this particular position defensively, more so than any other position on this defense. Cornerback will undergo an overhaul, is what I'm telling you. For the second consecutive year. Remember, last year, we left the season with just Marshawn Lattimore and Mikey Sainristil as corners. They brought back Noah Igbenogany, brought in Jonathan Jones, and drafted Trey Amos. Now we're in the same spot with just different guys. Trey Amos and Mikey Sainristil are the 2 guys that are under contract for next season. And all we did was sub out Marshawn Lattimore for Trey Amos. And now we're back at it again. This position is going to look vastly different, just like it did this past year. So let's move on to the safety position now, our final position on the defensive side of the football. And this is what it looks like. So, here are your active safeties. Percy Butler has really impressed this staff with his special teams ability. He's been outstanding on special teams. They already signed him to an extension for next year. So he's under contract. He'll be here. And there's no reason for Percy not to be here. He's played really well on special teams in the role that he's been assigned. And as long as Percy doesn't have to see the field in a defensive capacity, we're fine. It's all love. Can't say the same for Jartavius Martin. The third-year safety has been a massive disappointment in year 3, to the point where he was benched on Sunday in Madrid versus the Dolphins for his chronic missed tackles, poor angles, an inability to make plays on the football. I imagine that he's going to get another chance to get back out there. I think they just sent him a message, or they could just be sick of his shit and at this point are willing to bench him in favor of Darnell Savage permanently. He'll see the field defensively, the remainder of the season, but will it be in a starting capacity is the question. I'm intrigued to see what it looks like, but I'm over Quan Martin as a viable option moving forward, as a guy we can rely on as a starting safety. You don't have to pack him up. He provides you with depth. He can play special teams. He can be a backup safety. He's still under contract for another year after this season, so there's no reason to cut him, but we're disappointed, to say the least. Tyler Owens is a guy that is under contract. He doesn't have to go anywhere. He's a guy that they've experimented with, and I think there's still more to uncover with him and figure out. But he's under contract. There's nothing that you really need to do, so you just move on. And he's a guy that doesn't have to be here, though, next year, right? As an undrafted that you wanted to see more from, if they don't see enough and they say to themselves, well, he's a core special teamer, but you can find a core special teamer that can actually contribute on defense, on the defensive side of the football, you don't have to cut him, but he is on the bubble at that point. But for right now, there's no reason to do anything with Tyler Owens other than bring him back and let's see what he can do next year. Jeremy Reeves is a core commander at this point. They love this guy, right? This guy's on billboards. He's a part of the marketing for this team. He was over in Madrid. He was for the championship era threads. Like, they love them some all-pro Revo. He's not going anywhere. He's under contract. They gave him an extension this offseason. He's going to be a part of this team, at least through next year. And Darnell Savage, I have no issues with him coming back next year. Nothing that I've seen is said he can't be here. Can you do better than Darnell Savage? Can you do better than Jartavius Martin? Sure you can. But as of right now, until you get better, there's no reason to do anything with these guys. Now, unlike Quan Martin or Jartavius Martin, Darnell Savage is not under contract for next year. So they'll have to make the conscious decision to bring him back. We'll see if they decide to do that or not. But all 5 of these active guys, to me, are at least back at camp next year. Again, Darnell Savage could be on the outs. Who knows? We'll see. Will Harris, as you go to injured reserve, is a guy that we're going to see back on the field here to finish up this season, is maybe as early as week 13, fresh off the bye versus Denver. His 21-day window has been opened. They are excited about getting him back. He's under contract for next year. He signed a 2-year deal here. So whether or not he plays well fresh off this injury or not, he's going to be back next year. So he's a part of the roster next year for now. And then you hit the practice squad. Robert McDaniel is a guy that they see as a Jeremy Chin type. Similar, if you see what his size is like compared to Tyler Owens in terms of height, weight, speed, they're very similar, right? They're looking for that kind of safety. McDaniel fits that mold as an undrafted out of an HBCU like Jackson State. Clearly, he was coming in and he was going to have to adjust to the speed of the game, level of competition, all of that stuff. Hopefully now that's set in and you go into this upcoming season and hopefully he's taking a massive step forward. I believe in his athleticism, especially down around the box. So he'll be back. He may not make this team again, and they may ultimately decide to move on from him next year. But as far as OTAs and mini camps and all, he'll be here for all of that. No reason for him not to. But who shouldn't be here and who won't be here is Daryl Worley. He pack his ass up. Again, another one of these oldie but goodies that circumstances dictated that we brought in here because of where we were this season with the injuries. But Daryl Worley does not have to be here. I actually thought he played well in the preseason. I'm good, though. I'll pass. Thanks, but no thanks. Daryl Worley, we can pack him up. So you look at the safety position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys. Sounds about right. Again, nothing here precludes you from adding a safety in the offseason, whether that's free agency or the draft. Nothing here stops you from doing that. Not a single guy gives you the we got our starters, we don't need to add, or we got our backups, we don't need to add. Nobody here stops you from adding another guy at the safety position. So all bets are off here. But this is a group that I think they don't love. I think as fans, I think we all feel that way. Like, we like this group. They're a solid group. We don't love this group. There are no playmakers in this group. There are no difference makers here. They're cool. They elite special teams players and Owens and Reeves and Butler. Like, they serve a purpose, but when we start talking about defensive difference makers, not one exists here. That's a problem. That's a problem. So, all right. So we've looked at all of the positions now. That's what we've done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some free agents and what those guys could potentially provide for us if the team looks to go in that direction. There are a lot of interesting names that will be available next year. We've got the cap space to be aggressive. So we'll talk about some names that make some sense for the Commanders. And obviously, everything is fluid. These final 6 games matter. A lot of things you have to take into consideration, but we'll take a look at all of that. But first, we'll get a word from our sponsor of this stream, Sleeper. We'll come back on the other side, and then we'll get to some free agents, and then we'll get to your comments right after this.
Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
All right, so now let's take a look at some free agents that would make a lot of sense, and we'll go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. I think that should be good right there. Let's see what it looks like on the screen real quick. Yeah, that should do it. That's pretty good right there. So I'm starting at edge rusher on that defensive line. We talked about this already and how there are some decisions that have to be made down the stretch, figuring out what we have. Drake Jackson is, I think, a big key to a lot of this. If he proves to be a, starting caliber defensive end, this is a former 2nd-round pick we're talking about, then I don't think it precludes you. Again, I don't think it stops you from looking for depth at defensive line via free agency, but it does stop you from maybe looking for a potential starter. It limits what you're looking to spend, basically, is what I'm saying. Whereas if he shows that he's probably more so, and again, it's tough. It's a tough assessment because he's coming off of a major injury that got him cut from his last team. So to just give him 6 games to prove that he can or can't is a tough situation to be in. He probably is going to need more time, but I'm just going to treat him like he's a backup at this point. That's what he was in San Francisco. That's what I'm going to treat him as now. And I'm just going to say we should be aggressively looking for a starter, whether that's via the draft. If you end up with an elite pick and you can get your hands on one of these, guys that everyone's telling me about, Bain or Arvell Reese, okay, fine. Get that guy. And then and again, you'll know, right? We'll know by the time free agency hits. We'll know if we have the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th pick in the draft. If we've got the 8th or 9th pick, you're not getting Bain or Arvell Reese. You're not. Okay. And they'll know that. They should know that. Those guys are in the running to be the first defensive player taken off the board. So you'll know whether or not you're in striking range for those players or not. So anyhow, let's talk about what guys interest me at this point as edge rushers. So first guy up that, and I've already taken the liberty of sorting these edge rushers by age. So you can see they're in the order of age from the youngest down to the oldest. We're not venturing into the 30-year-old space. You already know where my head is. If you're over the age of 28 years old, you're probably not on my radar. And that doesn't mean you're not on the radar for this team. You're just not on my radar right now. Doesn't mean they won't sign a 29-year-old guy or a 20 or a 30-year-old guy. I'm just not. That's not where my head is. That's what I don't think that's what our offseason looks like. I think an overcorrection is coming, but we'll see. So first guy up is David Ojabo, who is in Baltimore with the Ravens. This is a former second-round pick out of Michigan that had a significant knee injury preparing for the draft the year that he came out, which kind of stunted his growth. And he really never, I think, rebounded from that the way that the Ravens hoped. So I look at him as similar to Drake Jackson, right? A former second-round pick, low risk, high reward type of signing. Doesn't cost you a lot of money. It feels like it's right up Adam Peters' alley. You know, the thing he likes to do is find those diamond in the roughs, like a Traylon Burks or a Drake Jackson, guys that are former high-level talents, first, second rounders that, you know, didn't work for whatever reason, production or, you know, injury, whatever. And he's looking to take advantage of that. That's what David Ojabo would be. Here's another guy that I think is extremely talented, but he's one of the forgotten men in Green Bay, and that's Kingsley Enagbare, right? Kingsley Enagbare was a guy that was one of the better defensive linemen for the Packers last year. I think he had like 5 or 6 sacks last season. But then you get a chance to trade for Michael Parsons, and who the hell is Kingsley Enagbare, right? He becomes the forgotten man. You still have Lucas Van Ness. You still have Rashawn Gary, right? You have all these guys on the defensive line. Kingsley Enagbare has become sort of, I don't want to say a forgotten man in terms of he's not playing. He's getting snaps, but he's not being featured like he was before. And he's obviously playing less snaps than he was a year ago. This is a guy that I think he had 5 or 6 sacks last year. He's not going to hit that this year, more likely than not, but he can play. Physical, reminds me of a much more physically built Jacob Martin. So rough, rugged. I could see us signing this guy. And I don't think it's going to cost you a whole hell of a lot. Again, him and David Ojabo are guys that I don't think you're going to have to break the bank for. Here's another guy down the list here that I think has a chance. And just so we are clear, Ojabo will be 26 next year, and so will Kingsley Enagbare. Both will be 26 next season. So perfect age, right in that neighborhood of what we're looking for. And those are low-cost acquisitions if they go that route. Another low-cost acquisition would be Sam Williams. Now, this is a guy that has had some off-the-field issues. The only way he ends up in Washington is if DQ and Joe Witt Jr. vouch for him. Some former Dallas coaches vouch for this guy, say, no, he's a good kid. We can work with him, that sort of thing, because he's had some off-the-field issues. He had some in college. He had some with the Cowboys. But he can get to the quarterback, though. Now, he's had a major injury, so you have to take that into consideration back in 2024. So he'll be a free agent. He'll be 27 next year. That's a name to watch out for just off the strength of him being a former Cowboy. Here's another guy that I think you should consider, 27-year-old Arnold I knew I was going to mess his name up. I always do. Ebiketie. There we go. Got it. Arnold Ebiketie. This is the former, I want to say, second-round pick out of Penn State. Ebiketie is going to be 27 next year. Very physical, edge-setting type of defensive end that can also get to the quarterback. 5 to 6 sacks a year is what he usually provides you with. I could see him, again, he's going to cost, I think, look, as you can see, $9 million. They have a projection for him already. He's not going to be as cheap as the other guys I brought up in Ojabo or Enagbare. But I do think that if you're looking for a low-end starter, opposite of Dorrance Armstrong, Arnold Ebiketie is probably going to be someone that they would definitely consider, right? So that's a name to throw out there. Another name to throw out there is Boye Mafe, who will be 27. He's getting closer towards that 28 mark, but he'll be 27 for most of the season next year before turning 28, which is fine by me. A big physical edge setting defensive end who also has some juice off the edge. Like, I don't think he's ever had 10 sacks in a season, but he's got the talent to get a 10-sack season. Like, he'll creep up on you. You'll look up, oh shit, Boye Mafe has 7.5 sacks. He's one of those type of guys. Could definitely see him getting away from Seattle this year. I could also see him going back to Seattle this year. So another guy that, and then Jalen Phillips. Some reason they have him listed as a defensive tackle on this site, but I got him lumped with the edge rushers. He's going to be 27 years old next year. There's no way the Eagles traded a 3rd-round pick for this man and is just going to let him walk away in free agency. I have to believe that the Eagles are going to re-sign Jalen Phillips when this season is done. But if they don't, that's a guy that you can definitely throw some money. Now, that's going to cost you. That's going to cost you. He won't be cheap as a former 1st-round pick, and we've seen the impact that he's had on that Eagles defense already in such a short period of time. It's going to cost you, but he'd be worth it if you were willing to go down that road. But I can't imagine the Eagles letting him out of their building, right? And then here's the last guy I want to talk about because he's the one that I would target in free agency should he come available. And again, another guy that I don't think is going to be available, and that's K'Lavon Chaisson, a guy that I really liked coming out of LSU. He was raw as could be. And I knew that if he couldn't put it together soon enough, he'd flame out in his first destination. It's a former 1st-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars out of LSU. He couldn't find his footing in Jacksonville. The last 2 seasons, he's figured it out. And I told you, guys mature at a different rate. Last year he was with the Raiders, 5 sacks. This year, that was a career high, by the way, with the Raiders last year, 5 sacks. This year, he's already set a career high with the New England Patriots with 7. He's going to hit 10. He's going to hit 10 this year. I doubt that Mike Vrabel and company allow him to leave the building. But if they do, K'Lavon Chaisson will be 27 years old, and he's a young 27, right? He's a young 26 right now. So he'll be just turning 27 this time next year. He's a guy you can grow with over the next 3 years. He's the kind of guy you want to throw a 3-year, $60 million deal at, which is what he's probably going to command coming off of this 10 sack. I wouldn't be shocked if he got to 11 or 12 sacks this year with the way he's playing in New England right now. He's the kind of guy that intrigues me, and I think they would be interested in moving forward. So that's a name to watch this offseason. Again, I don't think New England lets him out of their building. So now we transition to the next position, and that's interior defensive line. I'm going to go ahead and sort this by age real quick. There are only 2 guys here that, get my antennas raised. Just 2. This is a bunch of, backup, defensive tackles. And I already think we got the backup defensive tackles in Johnny Newton. And if you're cool with bringing back Eddie Goldman, you already have 2 of them. They may want to go in a different direction and allow Eddie to leave. And you can find a younger Eddie Goldman. There are plenty of these guys here. Hell, a guy that they already moved on from in John Ridgeway is here. Like, there are plenty of those run-stuffing, physical defensive linemen. DJ Davidson, who plays for the New York Giants, is a big physical run-stuffing defensive tackle. There are plenty of those if you want to go younger. Jay Tufulele for the Jets, another big physical run-stuffing defensive tackle. There's plenty of these guys. Travis Jones, who was drafted out of UConn, that plays for the Ravens. There are plenty of those if you want to go that route. But the 2 guys that I look at that I think can actually make a difference, not just as guys that can stop the run, but guys that can actually penetrate, get into the backfield and get to the quarterback or tackles for loss. Khalil Davis, he's the guy that I think piques my interest the most from a Adam Peters standpoint, because we know Adam Peters loves his former 49ers. And he was a part of the brain trust that got him drafted. I remember, I know you got to go back in the archives, but if you remember that draft class, I think it was the 2022 draft. I told you guys about Kalia Davis, and I thought he had a chance to be like a problem. And he started out with, matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, he got drafted by Dallas. I had to guess. So he was in Dallas, and then he ended up in San Francisco. So I take that back. He wasn't there with them when Kalia Davis was there. He wasn't a part of the brain trust of drafting him. But I like Kalia Davis, and I think he can be a problem. And he's playing well for the 49ers this year. And he's a guy that it wouldn't cost you a ton of money, but he can come in here and be a really good piece of your defensive rotation. And then the other guy would cost you some money, and he is really good. And that's Devontae Wyatt. And I just brought him up the other day because he plays for the Green Bay Packers. He's a problem. Former first-round pick out of Georgia, beast. Packers aren't letting him leave. I just can't see it. But in the like they paying Micah Parsons the most money of any defensive player in NFL history. You got cut corners somewhere. Maybe Devontae Wyatt becomes expendable. Sign me up for Devontae Wyatt now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Right now. Sign me up. So those two in particular are guys that I'm intrigued by. There are plenty of names up here if you're looking for a run stuffer that's younger than Eddie Goldman. There's so many of those guys here. Those are a dime a dozen. Really, they are. But if you're looking for difference makers, I just gave you the two that jump off the screen at me. So let's now move on to the linebacker position. And I'll go ahead and sort this by age. And this one provides a number of names. So here's the thing that we have to figure out when we talk about this is, what is Jordan McGee? Is Jordan McGee an off-the-ball backer? Is he an on-the-ball backer? Is Jordan McGee a middle linebacker? Is he a true Mike? What is Jordan McGee? If you feel like he is a Mike, then it changes what you're looking for in free agency, if you're looking at all. If he's a Will, then you need a Mike, because clearly Frankie Louvu is not. And if you feel like he is a Mike, but he's not a starting caliber Mike, he's a backup Mike, which is okay too, then you still need a Mike. So there are options that will be available. Christian Harris, former Alabama linebacker, is going to be available. He's turning 25 years old next year. So he's a guy that is on this list. Leo Chanel, Kansas City Chiefs, a guy that I loved coming out of what it was. I think it was, I want to say it was one of the red schools. So it was either Nebraska or Wisconsin. I'm going to say he came from Wisconsin. Leo Chanel did. And he's played really well for the Chiefs. And again, not going to cost you a lot of money. Not going to cost you a lot of money. I don't know if the Chiefs let him out of their building, but it's another name to look at. Here's the guy that I think is the biggest difference maker of all of these dudes here, but he's also a liability at the same time. Quay Walker. Until they prove to me they're willing to take on one of these guys. He's been thrown out of multiple NFL games. He's a head case on the field. He's a loose cannon. He'll pick you up a 15-yard penalty because he'll have a guy stopped. They're blowing a whistle, and then he'll pick him up and slam him on the ground. He does dumb shit. But boy, is he an athlete, and boy, is he a problem. We've seen it with him. Played against that game against the Eagles. He was outstanding. When he played against us, he kicked our ass. He can run. Former first-round Georgia linebacker. He's a problem. Again, will Green Bay even let him out of the building? They opted not to pick up his fifth-year option. I think partly in due to the head case things on the field. He's hurt them in games where they needed him and he got tossed. I think they might regret it because if they had that extra year right now, the way he's playing next to Edgerrin Cooper, they've got one of the most athletically gifted linebacking cores in all of football, but they might not let him walk. They may re-sign him after this season. I think they're going to let him walk. I'd love to add Quay Walker to this defense. I really would. I just don't trust them to do that. They're all caught up in their morals and their moral compass and, you know, guys that do it the right way, all that bullshit. Until they prove that they're willing to color outside the lines, because Quay Walker don't always color inside the lines. Until they're willing to prove that they'll take a guy that colors outside the lines, I just got to assume that they're not going to. He's still on my list, though. He'll be 26 next year, and he's young. The next group of guys are all a little bit older, still very good, and still can play at a high level, as we've seen with Bobby Wagner. If you take care of yourself, you can play into your 30s. So the next three guys are all going to be 28 years old next season. And we start with Nathan Landman. You probably never heard of this guy. If you don't watch a ton of football, you have no idea who Nathan Landman is. Well, I watch a ton of football, and he's really good for the Los Angeles Rams. He's a tackling machine. He makes plays. He forces fumbles. He actively seeks the football. He's forced 4 fumbles this season. We don't have 4 forced fumbles as a collective team. Okay? He has 4 by himself. And this is what he does. This is not luck. Check his rap sheet. He produces the football. So he's a tackling machine. He doesn't come off the field. He's a green dot guy. They love him in LA. I can't see them letting him out of their building, to be honest with you. But if they do, somehow, some way, sign me up. And he fits their DNA profile. Devin Lloyd is a guy we've talked about on this channel several times just because of the playmaking ability that he's had this season. You know, when you do it on the stage that he's done it, week 4, maybe 5 against Kansas City, 99-yard pick six. He's had 4 interceptions this season for Jacksonville. But they, again, much like Quay Walker, former first-round pick, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option because they were disappointed in Devin Lloyd up until this season, right? And you had a new regime come in that didn't draft him. So, all those things have to be taken into consideration. But he's playing really well this season. Is that a guy you would be interested in adding? He's not a tremendous athlete. That was one of the knocks on him coming out of Utah, which is why he dropped in the draft a little bit to the 3rd round. But he has a knack from being around the football, which is more than we can say about any of the linebackers that we have currently on our team. He'll be 28 next year. Will Devin Lloyd. And then this one is a low cost. This is right up Adam Peters' alley, right? Another one of these low cost, low risk, high reward propositions. And another Devin, this time Devin White, who I think has reinvigorated his career. He goes to Vegas under Pete Carroll. And Pete's given all the oldie but goodies a chance to get their shit together. Him and Jamal Adams and guys like that. And both have taken advantage of the opportunity. White has played really well this year, and he's flying around. Again, he's another guy that kind of colors outside the lines, not from a, get in trouble off the field or even on the field, but he does do the whole freelancing thing. His effort has been in question in Tampa Bay. He went to Philadelphia a couple years ago and it didn't work. So there's, enough of a track record that precedes him to make me think that they won't try and kick the tires. But if you're looking for a cheap, fast, he's still as fast as he was 3 years ago, option of a guy that can run, Devin White checks all the boxes. And if he's back to where he was a few years ago, which it feels like he is right now, he could be a guy that could help you. So Devin White will turn 28 years old next year, and he's getting up there, right? You see he's 27.8, so he'll be 28 years old here shortly. He'll be 29 sometime next year. But if you bring Devin White on, it's a 1-year deal. Like, you're not bringing him here to be, a 3-year deal. You bring some of these other, like you bring in a late Nathan Landman, even though he's 28 years old. You can see he just turned 27, like literally just turned 27, probably a week or two ago. So he'll be just turning 28 this time next year. He'll be 27 this offseason. You'll give Nathan Landman a 3-year deal this offseason, right? Like, that's the kind of guy you bring in here. You give him a multi-year contract. Same with Quay Walker. And those guys are younger, 26. Leo Chanel, those are 26-year-olds. You give them 3-year, multi-year contracts. So just depends on what you're looking for. You looking for a starter? Leo Chanel, Quay Walker, Nathan Landman all check those boxes, or that box particularly. So does Devin Lloyd. You're looking for a backup or a guy to just come in and compete. Devin White might be more of your speed, right? So those are some names that make a lot of sense at linebacker. Now you move on to the cornerback position, and we start to look at the age of the corners. So Cordell Flott plays for the Giants. I've always liked him. I liked him coming out of LSU. He's a little bit thin. That was one of the knocks on him, but he's played well. He had the pick of Jalen Hurts this season, the only pick he's thrown. He plays some pretty sticky coverage. I like Cordell Flott. I think most Giants fans would tell you they like him too. And if they don't love him, I wouldn't be opposed to bringing him in here. I think he could play inside and outside. So that's a name. Greg Newsome, former first-round pick of the Cleveland Browns. You remember those two teams, Jacksonville and Cleveland, just swapped, draft picks that they might have been disappointed in. Newsome from the Browns and Tyson Campbell from the Jags. They just were traded for one another straight up. Basically, I think they might have been like some late-round picks attached going both ways, but they were the crux of the trade. As you can see, Newsome only will be 26 next year, so he's still relatively young. Former first-round pick out of Northwestern. There's some talent here. Won't cost you a ton, but it will cost you. It's a corner in this league. That's a starter. But he would be interesting to kick the tires on this offseason. Another guy, I love him to death. Roger McQuarrie. The Rams just traded for him from the Titans. There's no way in hell they're letting him walk out of their building. They traded for him because they love him and they think he's going to be a part of their future. He's going to turn 26 next year. Or he'll be 26 during the season next year. He's a nickel. He's not a boundary corner. He's a nickel and a feisty one. A feisty son of a bitch. Love him. He's not gonna. I can't. It's similar to Philadelphia trading for Jalen Phillips. You don't trade for guys and then just let them walk away unless you are super disappointed in what they provided you with. I can't see that being the case. So, next guy up, Cam Taylor-Britt was a guy that we talked about potentially. There were articles that were written that said we should trade for him, which I knew we weren't going to do. We weren't in the season of giving away draft picks. We were trying to acquire them. But yes, this is the same guy that talked shit about Cliff Kingsbury. Yes. No one cares about that. If he can help your team, and he's a 6'2" corner with long arms that can run, inconsistent as hell, which is why the Bengals aren't going to bring him back. But doesn't mean you don't experiment and see if that's someone that fits, which he does fit their scheme because he plays man-to-man coverage a ton. So, and again, he's not going to cost you a whole hell of a lot because he's not an elite corner. He's interesting. I'll just say that. He has ball skills. You all seen the one-hand pick he had off of Mahomes, early in the season last year. He's got ball skills. He can cover, but he's inconsistent. He's only 26. He'll be 27 next year. He just turned 26, as you can see, so he's still relatively young. So That's a guy to consider. And you may be over Cincinnati Bengal corners here as free agents. William Jackson III might have done it for you. I get it. But that's another name to, I think, highlight going into this offseason. This is the guy that has the most upside of any of these corners to me. And I remember saying, I hope the Eagles don't trade for him. He was the one that scared me because if the Eagles got their hands on him, they would turn him into an all-pro. Tariq Woolen of the Seattle Seahawks. Tariq Woolen is a guy that at 6'4", 205 pounds or so, runs a 4.2 40. This dude is a freak, man. He was coming out of UTSA. A lot of people felt like he could be, an elite corner. A lot of people felt like he could be a basic corner just with all these raw measurables. He's somewhere in between right now. Doesn't mean he's not going to figure it out. He's still relatively young. You see, they've already got market value on him because he can play. I kind of get a mixed read on him in Seattle, like whether they love him or not. Sometimes he's benched. Sometimes he's out there hooping. I don't really know what to make of it. It feels like he's going to be available. It doesn't feel like the Seahawks are aggressively going to try to keep him this offseason. But I can't say that they won't. But I'm paying attention. I'm monitoring the situation. I know that much. He is exactly what this team covets in a corner. He's aggressive. He's got the measurables. He has that swag you're looking for. Again, he's inconsistent. That's why he's going to be available, but you'll live with that inconsistency with what he brings to the table. So that's a guy that is going to cost you. You see the number already, 15, and that might not be a good representation of what he'll ultimately get per year. He's going to cost. He'll be one of the better ones on the free agent market should he get there. I'm intrigued, though. Eric Stokes is another one of these Adam Peters type guys that I think could easily be on his radar as a reclamation project. The former second-round pick for the Green Bay Packers out of Georgia is a guy that I've watched the Raiders a ton this year, and he looks good, man. Like, he's not elite, never will be elite, but for what he was drafted to be, he looks like he's starting to round into that second-round form that people thought he could be when he was first drafted. Took him a little while to get there, but he's playing some of his best football for the Vegas Raiders right now. So that's another guy that I could see Adam Peters not wanting to spend a lot of money, opting to not go after the elite, free agent that's going to cost you a ton, but that next level down, which would be a guy like Eric Stokes. Alontae Taylor, and just so we know, Tariq Woolen will be 27 next year, as you can see, and Eric Stokes will be 27 next year as well. Alontae Taylor will be 27 years old next year, but you can see he's getting up there closer to 28, 27 this year, 28 next year, but he'll be 27 during the vast majority of the season next year. He's a big, tall corner with long limbs, but he's not as fast as you would like. He's physical. I don't love Alontae Taylor. I think you can do better than Alontae Taylor, but he is a guy that you have to consider. He is a guy that you have to consider. I skipped over this guy, Nahshon Wright, but he's playing well for Chicago right now. And if I'm not mistaken, former Dallas Cowboy. So there may be some DQ ties there. He is tall as shit, like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", somewhere in that neighborhood, probably more like 6'2". Long ass arms. Had an excellent pick this past week. I want to say it was against the Vikings. Might have been the week before against the Giants. Either way, I think it was against the Vikings. He's playing with some confidence. So that's another guy to throw in the mix. Amik Robertson is a guy that, and Nahshon Wright will be 28 next year. I don't mind. Same with Amik Robertson. Always, if you go back in the archives and watch my draft prospects 101 series, I love Amik Robertson. Loved him coming out of La Tech, and he has the demeanor of an elite 6'2" corner, but he's 5'9", 5'10", 5'9", feisty as shit, doesn't give a damn how big you are. He's going to get up in your mix. And we saw him take on Justin Jefferson. We've seen him take on these tough challenges and be right there. Don't give a shit. He's everything that if you're going to play Mikey outside, he's everything I want Mikey to be, but Mikey's not. If you're going to play him outside. Mikey don't have that kind of swag, don't have that kind of demeanor. But they're very similar. Size, speed, all of that. I love me some Amik Robertson, and I wouldn't mind adding him. Don't know what the hell you're going to do with him, but give me anybody with the mindset of an Amik Robertson, give me him on my roster. You can win a lot of football games with them dudes. And then the last dude is a guy that I made fun of when he was a Philadelphia Eagle, and Josh Jobe. Called him Jolly Rancher Jobe because he was getting his ass ate up. Pause. That man is playing. He's hooping for the Seattle Seahawks. Josh Jobe is hooping right now. Now, he'll be 28 next year, and the light bulb has finally come on for him. He's hooping. Again, not going to cost you a lot if you're looking for a low-end, low spend type of option. Josh Jobe makes a ton of sense if you're looking to go in that direction. Wouldn't be my choice, but I could understand why they would go that direction. So those are the corners. A lot of them available is what I'm trying to tell you. And we got to reshape that position. And then lastly, safety. Let's go ahead and sort this by age. And the first guy up on the list is Andre Cisco, a guy that I was interested in him coming out of the draft out of Syracuse, a few years back. He sustained an injury coming out of college. He sustained an injury in the NFL. I think he signed a 1-year deal with the Jets. Now he's back on the free agent market. He's a playmaker, a guy that will take the football away. He's not the fastest, but he is instinctual. So he'll be 26 next year, young, all that good stuff. An intriguing prospect, to say the least. Brian Cook, to me, smells and reeks of Commanders if he were to become a free agent. He'll be 27 years old, so he's still very young, just turned 26. The former, I think he was a 3rd-round pick of the Chiefs from Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken. Physical, hard-hitting safety, but he's shown way more range in the NFL than I thought that he would provide watching him coming out of Cincinnati. He's all around the field. He makes plays on the football. He will hit you. This feels and smells like a Commanders type of move. Don't be surprised if Brian Cook is on their radar to target this offseason. Should he come available? Again, there's no guarantees that the Chiefs will let him walk. But one position that the Chiefs have always allowed to hit free agency, that they've always felt like they could find a new guy, whether it be via the draft or a cheaper option in free agency, is safety, right? They've allowed a lot of safeties to leave their building. Brian Cook could be the next in a long line of safeties that have left. Now, I will say, after these guys have left Kansas City, most of them have not been very successful. So that's also something to keep in mind. But I like Brian Cook. You can see he's got a number on him. That tells you that this site believes that he's a really good football player and he will be highly coveted in the offseason. I concur. You're going to have to pay for Brian Cook. He will not come cheap. A guy that will come cheap if he is available is Ty Okada, who had the interception against us when we played Seattle just a few weeks ago. The guy that caught the interception on the sidelines. He's a backup that somehow got onto the field due to injuries, and I bet you they're having a hard time taking him off the field. He's a blitzer. He plays the football. He hits. He's a core special teamer. He does everything. Another one of these Jeremy Reeves guys, but with actual, ball skills and talent to do things on the defensive side. He's a restricted free agent, as you can see, though. I don't think Seattle's going to let him leave, and it shouldn't cost them a lot to keep him. They'll tender him, make it hard for him to leave, and I don't see him going anywhere, but that's a guy that definitely has caught my attention watching him this season. How about Cam Curl, anyone? Anyone interested in Cam Curl? I wrote his name down. He'll be 27 years old. How ironic is that he'll be available and we need corner and we need safety help? They're not going to do it, right? They're going to stand on business with Cam Curl. They're not going to admit they made a mistake because he's one of the guys that I thought they should have given a shot here. They should have tried to bring back just to see. He's such a smart football player. He's always where he needs to be when he's supposed to be there. I thought he would have fit into their defense. They would have loved Cam Curl. They never gave him a shot here. So he's played well for the Rams. He's still young. Cam Curl is better than Will Harris. He's better than Will Harris. And he's more durable. I just think it'd be in their best interest to at least do their due diligence, but I don't think they're going to admit they made a mistake. Jaquan Brisker is the exact same age as Cam Curl. He'll be 27 next year. Former second-round pick out of Penn State. I know they like him a lot because I heard Joe Witt Jr. talk about him when we played the Bears earlier this season when he started giving his assessment of what the Bears brought to the table. So I know they think he can play. Will the Bears let him leave? Don't know. But as you can see, he's got a price tag. He's not going to come cheap because he does everything. He hits. He forces fumbles. He picked us off earlier. He was the guy that picked off Jaden Daniels on that first possession this year. Like Jaquan Brisker is a guy that makes plays on the football. Definitely a guy that you would love to add, but he's going to cost you. It's not going to be cheap. Not going to be cheap. Here's a guy that I would love to add to this team. It'd be a double whammy. You'd be subtracting from a divisional foe and adding to your football team. Love Reed Blankenship. But to me, he's a young part of that Eagles core that they are not going to allow to leave that building. But he's only 26 years old. He's going to be 27, shortly, but he'll be 27 most of next season. Still relatively young, plays at a high level, very responsible safeties, where he's supposed to be, makes plays on the football, will hit you. Love Reed Blankenship. They love him too, and that's why I don't think they're going to let him out of their building. But if they do, I'm interested, right? And they should be as well. That's the last guy. There's some other names: Quentin Lake of the Rams, Jalen Thompson of the Cardinals, that may interest you. I'm good on those guys, but I could see how, if you're watching football, those are two names that I see here that are, solid football players. But those, I've given you the guys that have jumped out at me this season, that have jumped out at me over the life of their careers, and I've seen progression and growth, and I like where the arrow is trending, and they would make sense for this team if they wanted to go that route. So that is your free agency look for now, and obviously that's subject to change because you're going to get guys who get released that we don't know are going to be released now, but for cap reasons, like Daron Payne, we've talked about, that may be available, once we get to March. But there's a lot to discuss. We'll continue to have these conversations, but as you can see, there's a lot of work that needs to be done defensively. There are going to be a lot of openings on this team, on this roster defensively, and there are a lot of guys that will be available this offseason. The question isn't whether or not there are talented guys that you can add. It's, are we willing to spend what it's going to take to add these talented guys, right? And do these guys want to play here? And that's also something you have to take into consideration. But anyway, I digress. So let's get to the comment section, and then we will get out of here. Video channel, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Midday Marauders, how would you feel about Al Harris as DC? He's been great as a DB's coach, but has never been a DC or called plays. Could he be DQ's final year? Could be DQ's final year. I don't know how DQ feels about Al Harris, the play caller. I know how DQ feels about Al Harris, the defensive backs coach. That's a massive leap from DB coach to play caller, but I would be on board with it if he did it. I can't say out of one side of my mouth, I want the former player with energy, which Al Harris is exactly that to a T. I can't tell you that I want what the Detroit Lions have in Shepard, right? Their defensive coordinator, who is their former linebackers coach. I can't tell you that I want what they have in Kelvin Shepard and then turn down the opportunity to add Al Harris to this group as our defensive coordinator. Sign me up. I see and I know that those players love him. And I know that Des Bryant is out here politicking for him to get the job. They should move on from Matt Eberflus, not because Eberflus stinks, but because Al Harris has the chance to be that good, and you don't want to see him get plucked off of this team by another, team. So there, Des Bryant he's begging Jerry Jones to fire, move on from Matt Eberflus and give the DC job to Al Harris. I'd love to beat them to the punch. I'd love to beat them to the punch for Al Harris. Glizzy McGuire, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, Sam Howell gonna bless us week 18 versus the Eagles. He's not getting in the game. They got Tanner McKee. Tanner McKee will get in it and he'll bless us in week 18, not Sam Howell. Now, if something happens to Tanner McKee, Sam might get in there, but I don't see him getting in there. So, Chris and Pip, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Writes, Mansour Delaney needs to be drafted by us, or Delane. I have no idea who that is. I'll take your word for it. I just know we need talent. I don't really give a shit what position he plays. We just need talent. And if he plays, one of three particular positions, wide receiver, edge rusher, corner, hell yes. Sign me up big time. But he could play safety. He could be tight end or running. I don't give a shit. We could use all of those positions, to be honest with you. The only thing that we really don't need at a high level right now is offensive line, and you could still use some developmental guys on this roster. But you don't need to do that in the draft early, at least. So, Club 100 TV, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Club 100 TV writes, so no Trey Hendrickson. Can you run down your list? I've already run down the list. Go back and watch the video. No Trey Hendrickson. He's too old. I'm not looking like Trey Hendrickson isn't looking for a one-year deal. Trey Hendrickson is looking for a multi-year deal. He's looking to be compensated for the things that he's done. He's not and he's not having a great season this year, obviously, because he's had dealt with injuries. It's not a coincidence that he held out all year and now he's injured. Same thing with Terry. Held out all year and now he's injured. I do think there's a correlation as you get older. You need to be out there. You need to be getting those reps. I can't see Trey Hendrickson being a guy we're still chasing a Super Bowl, but we're not in Super Bowl or bust mentality. Not that last year or this season was Super Bowl or bust, but we were definitely actively chasing a Super Bowl. We're not going to be doing that next year. We're chasing success next year, not Super Bowl. And so Trey Hendrickson at 31 years old next year, about to turn 32 next year, will be counter to the process that we should be looking to get younger. Trey Hendrickson doesn't. You let him go to a team like Buffalo, who thinks they have a chance to win a Super Bowl, or Baltimore, somewhere like that. Not here. Not here. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this Command Post defensive breakdown episode. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys later on this evening when we will be live for Commanders Nightly News. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. If you're intrigued by anything I said, leave it down in the comment section. If you disagree or I left something off the list that intrigues you, by all means, leave it down in the comment section. I see everything. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.